Hello and welcome to another episode of Israeli Adventures with me, as always, Beny Levin. Hey Beny, what's up?
Hey Or, how are you? I'm good. I'm good.
Great.
I have great news for you today.
Yeah, that's good. We're gonna talk about this news a whole lot because there is a new logo on our screen here, Kintsugi. We're gonna talk about it and what does it mean and what travel you can plan with Kintsugi. But before all of that, I just want to tell the story, of Kintsugi because it's a very unique one because it's not just planning your next trip, to whatever, to whether it's in Israel or it's in other places in Europe or in Asia. It's actually about challenging yourself, which is amazing during those trips.
So, in the last few months, we had a lot of thinking. What took our company from, a small company of two people in 2016 to doing 130 trips around every single year, hosting almost 2,000 people every single year. And we dived in to understand what is happening behind the scenes. And we realized that we had a challenge, or I had something in my mind. I just didn't know how to color it and how to explain it. But I will take every single trip or every single vacation and I will turn it into a personal growth opportunity. And I'm putting that's the idea of opportunity. And when we started to break it, there is a lot of different parts. And we came up with this idea to call that specific brand that will do these trips all around the world Kintsugi. Now, Kintsugi is a Japanese art. It's not just an art. It's an art of you taking a broken vessel with that broken into different pieces, and you create something together. You glue it together. You bring it back together with a royal metal. So it can be platinum or titanium or gold. The most common is like gold. And then what you have at the end is something that is much better and much have a higher value than the original vessel, because it's an artwork, and it's an artwork that connected with this special, beautiful metal. And I thought it's a great example because when you have a broken vessel, it don't have to come back to be the same vessel. And I thought that will be a great name, because what we're actually doing, we're taking the different puzzles, pieces of every single trip, and we are putting them together with a specific way that is creating an artwork, creating something better than it was before. And I think that's the core of creating or taking every single trip or every single vacation and make it into like an artwork, something that will make you a better version of yourself at the end of this trip.
Yeah, and I think it's a really great metaphor to everything that happened, let's say, in Israel in the past months, and the thing that you and your company just took right now as an opportunity to reinvent yourself and do something new. And and we're talking about on these trips. We talked before this episode, Beny, about how do you challenge people inside the trip, and we talked about four central elements. We're going to break them one by one at this episode. So first of all, we want to talk about the mental side. How do you make, how do you allow to a trip, become a challenge, a mental challenge for those who go through it?
So I think if I even press this famous time machine button and go a little bit back, before jumping into the breaking different points and different challenges, is that when you booking a vacation, when you booking a tour, a travel to somewhere, Kintsugi is about everywhere else, not in Israel. In Israel, we have a different brand. It's called Let. Same ideas. We developed them in 15 years, really breaking them down to details. But when you're going to a new destination, you basically, without noticing, investing in yourself and your own personal growth, because you're getting yourself out of your comfort zone. out of your home, out of your sofa, out of your daily life, daily routine, everything that is making sense in your mind, and you're breaking it. You're flying, you're getting into an airplane seat, and then you're arriving to a new destination. There's new language, new food, new culture, new ideas, and you basically already took everything in, and you already invested 90% of the energy needed to go and make yourself a better version of yourself, like by doing that trip. The only thing you need is to add the layer of understanding and basically summarizing the different needs and wishes for you or your family or your kids to grow. And we will talk about different cases, but you started about the first
mental challenge,
that were challenging. So I think every single trip need to be built from different activities or different experiences, and it's completely okay. We do everything in a luxury way. We take the nice vehicles, we stay in nice hotels, we can do it private, we can do it in a small group, but the core of it is that every single day we want to try and challenge ourselves. One of the challenges is mental challenge. Most of the things in life are stopping us with inside our mind. Like if we change our mind, if we switch that idea and we understand that it's for our own benefit, we will be jumping into this experience. And if we take mental, and I can take like an example that is a mix, let's say every travel agent can book a rappelling. Now, rappelling is an activity where you get to the edge of the cliff. Every single person have a fear of heights. Some will control it better, but our nature is to be fear of heights, because when you fall from a high place, it's danger to your life.
You die or
exactly.
Like
it's natural. So when we book rappelling, we have 4 different options or 4 different outcomes for a group to come and do the rappelling. Rappelling, they arrive to a cliff. There is an instructor with 2 ropes. One is you're rappelling on, one is safety rope. Both of them can hold, 2.5 tons, like a strong rope. So there is no physical danger. It's also you don't need to be in shape. Like it's not limited to an age, because everything about that challenge is in your mind. So when a group arrives, there are 4 possible outcomes. One is that you're arriving and you're like, OMG, that's not happening. I'm gonna sit here and I'm not gonna do anything else. And this is the only place this is the only state we want to move people from. We want to get to the next stage. The next stage, you put in your harness, you put in your helmet, you're walking to the edge of the cliff, and then you connect yourself to the rope. You're having a conversation one-on-one with the instructor. The instructors are professional in doing exactly that, overcoming that fear, doing that leap of faith in order to trust the equipment, but also overcome your own personal barrier. And sometimes you arrive there and you try and you just don't do it. So you raise your hand and you get off and you sit on the side. Then the other people that are arriving to this stage, some of them are actually going down the rope and they are successful. So of course there is like, yoo-hoo, hallelujah. The feeling, you cannot describe it, like this feeling. And this feeling is existing inside you, no matter how feeling proof you are. Like no matter if you are not a person of feelings, it's still exactly what you will feel. And then there is the 4th group, that people that want to try and do it again. And they come and they do it again. So far, every single travel agency put the same thing. You do that. Every single group arrives to the same rappelling, and they are doing the same progress. Some of them don't even move from that first place.
Yeah, but your expertise in processing that feeling or that or understanding that mental change that people has just moved inside this rappelling.
So it's so simple. Like our secret for taking a company to an 8-figure business based on that simple idea of challenges, is really about those extra 10 minutes after the activity. Sometimes not straight away, sometimes in the evening. You want to process it, because people that, put the harness and went, and the helmet and went, but didn't go down, they are happy with themselves because they already did one step to face the challenge. People that are successful, their feeling of success, even if they had worries before that, they had some concerns, they didn't know if they're gonna be successful or not, but they succeeded. It's giving them such a boost of self-confidence that it's unbelievable. And the third option is that you come back up and you do the second time. And always, but always, those people will say, you know what? The second time was much easier. Now, when we let the feelings and those experiences, personal experiences of this experience, of the repelling, to be processed, now the person that actually put it only the harness and the helmet and had worries about that, they're like, oh, we are not going to do that. That's beyond or above my pay grade. That's even if you tell them, are you willing to take yourself and try it again? The second try will be easier. So now we finish that and we continue to our day, right? We continue to enjoy seeing beautiful sights, but something stayed. Now try to imagine when you have a vacation that is like a weekend, like 3-4 days, or if it's a 1 week or 10 days vacation in the summer or in the spring break or in the winter break. And then you fill up the itinerary with those little different challenges that are mental, that are a little bit mental, and they are really creating for yourself a boost of self-confidence, a self-believing that I can, or at least even
I can try.
Yeah, I
At
can
least
try.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I think most of the people don't try different things or don't do. That's why most of the world is not really, doing something significant, but living in a world that because they give up for themselves. And every single human being have a potential to be unbelievable and have an influence and create a better world. And this is the first one. So it's mental.
Exactly. Let's talk about something else that people sometimes afraid to try while they are abroad, which is, the perspective experience, which I know that most of the time, or some of the perspective experience or challenges you face is by food, right? Which is also a very interesting thing
So,
in a different place.
Yeah, listen,
Yeah.
it's so interesting because we have a lot of families that coming to us and saying, my kid don't eat this, or like we don't like to try that. And it's basically because they get used to something that they like. It's always our personal mind want us to be in a safe zone. Like we want our comfort zone. I don't want to sweat and go to the gym, and I don't want to climb a mountain, and I don't want to try food that I'm not sure that I'm gonna like. So the second way that we challenge people is on their perspective. Because I believe that for me to do what I'm doing, the gift that I got is that I traveled a lot of countries with different cultures, with different foods, and I didn't have a choice. I wanted to be a part of it. And those ideas that sometimes look like weird, you're in Mongolia riding a horse, and you meet people that their life is surrounded by, they're raising 10,000 horses, they value the family, they are living a different life, and you're there, you're experiencing it, you will never put yourself in their shoes, but you're like, oh, what can I study from them? What can I take from those amazing people that living a whole life like I live in my country? And that's exactly the idea of a perspective. I want to open that perspective. So how we actually do it, how do you challenge people with a perspective? So let's say we're arriving to Greece. Okay, one of our destination is Greece. And we're going to the local market. We create a game, we take the group, we split them into two, and we give them cards. Those cards have 6 or 8 different types of food with names, like the Greek names. They don't know what this food is about. And they need to try it and basically they need to choose 4 out of the names. So their mind is like, oh, let's try to figure out by the name if souvlaki is, what is souvlaki? Or they trying to figure out what's the food, but they choosing 4, they tasting 4, and the 2 that they like the most, they are bringing back to give to the other group to try. So 2 groups going out into the market with their mission, with their cards, and they are tasting 4 different foods without knowing what they are, but their goal, their mission is not for themselves. So I'm kind of creating a little bump, a little help for that. So instead of I'm trying it for myself, I'm actually trying it in order to recommend what I really like to somebody else. So it's a little overcome in our mind that let us to be exposed to open our perspective, because it's not for you. You're always willing to do something more for somebody else.
You have a mission.
And not for yourself.
You need to show your mother on the other group or your friends at the other group.
Yeah,
that
or your grandparents.
Some nice food. Yeah, exactly.
And then you try and you bring it and you give those 2 dishes to try to the other group and they rate it. But then we open up every single name of a dish in Greek and we read what it's made of and how they make it. And some of those dishes, 100%, if I give the name and what's inside, they will never want to try and eat. The most important when you challenge people on perspective is to give them an easy exit. Like you need to touch the fears. The fears is usually, oh, we're traveling. The easiest example is for parents that their kids don't want to try new food. They will be always like, oh, I want my kid to be, healthy. I want them to eat. I want them to be organized. And so we have a very simple rule with the kids. Like you try, if you didn't like anything from all the dishes that you tried, you're choosing the meal, you're choosing the dish, and we're going to buy it for you, no question asked. So if you want Pizza Hut, we'll make sure the Pizza Hut pizza will arrive to you, even if there is no Pizza Hut in Greece. We'll order it, we'll import it. Yeah, exactly. This is the level, because at the end we want to build trust. We want to build an open conversation and say why I liked it, why I didn't like it, because the idea of perspective is that I want to open my thinking. I don't have to like it. I don't need to agree with it, but I do want to really understand it. And it can be in different cultures, it's much easier when you go to the Far East because the culture is so different. Yeah.
Or the foods are different. Sometimes there are things that we never eat in the Western world, So,
yeah. And look, it's very interesting. Like we are doing what basically the TV shows, like The Amazing Race or Peking Express or different TV shows that's sending people and they are in a race. They need to challenge themselves. How they challenge them. If you look on that, like what you see is they challenged exactly by the same logic. They do mental, psychological, physical, and perspective. Like I want to try new things or challenge you because in your mind, like there is no way I'm eating those scorpions.
Yeah.
It's like this. But yeah, like if you break that, if we close your eyes and we tell you this is not a scorpion, that's a new lace, chips type, and you don't know the form, you don't see it, you don't smell it, you don't build something in your mind, you actually might like it.
Exactly. So let's talk about some other challenge that we talked about just now, the psychological one, which is also, sometimes very, very difficult to break, right?
So I think psychological, like we set our personal limits. We decide what is our personal limits, how much we can run, how much we can jump, where we can go, how far we can go, what we can eat, like how many people I can talk to a day, anything. It's like we building in ourselves kind of a barrier or a protecting wall, and it's a psychological wall, because the only thing you need to do is to move that limit a little bit further. And you don't need to move it like miles away. You just need to do like one little step. So my favorite way to actually combine the psychological together with one of the others, because psychological and mental are very, very close, and psychological and physical are very close. Psychological and perspective are very close. So the psychology is almost like the umbrella that sits above that. So we use one of the other ones in order to break our psychological understanding that sometimes will affect our perspective, sometimes will affect our mental preparation, and sometimes will give us and open for us a new physical challenge and understanding that physically we can do more. I think the best example is when I have a mixed group, and I have grandparents. I have now one group like this that is going to Portugal. And there is grandparents, and you have kids that are college age and teenagers. So everyone is like adult in a very good shape. Some of them are playing sports. The parents, there are two sets of parents. They are all in a good shape. And then you have the grandparents that, you know, they are grandparents. They are in their age, even if for their age, you know, I will pay to be in their shape. But they're like, take the kids, take the family along, you take them on a 10-mile hike, and they will be great. Climbing, jumping into water, going through different things. And is it possible to do when you have grandparents on the ground? I think I use the grandparents, because my conversation, you know, every single trip in this way starts with a long questionnaire to understand really the limits. The grandparents are the first one that want to feel that feeling of achievement. So like in their mind, that's what they can do. But on a trip that is a unique occasion during the year, it's the time that they will push the limit, come back to the room, and maybe even curse and say, oh, my thighs are hurting, my body is hurting. But they had just such a good time. So we're doing a hike that including climbing ladders, okay? So you climbing like something that is very technical. You're swimming through water. You're going up. You're sweating. It's like hard. You need to stop. You need to breathe. The grandparents have the highest challenge. The parents and the kids, it's for them. They actually having fun. But they see the grandparents. What set of an example of an overcoming challenges, psychological challenges, because they can do it physically. Yes, their body will be hurt, maybe teethed and stuffed, but they're going to be successful. So that's exactly the idea, where we play a little bit with the psychological side on that part.
Yeah, but it's also, you know, especially, you know, whatever you just told me about, you know, going through hikes, it's also a physical challenge, right? So how do you take this physical challenge and make it an example for eye-opening experience, or, you know, mind-opening experience in a trip?
So I think one of the most interesting parts is that every single trip need to have a little bit of nature. Because nature, it's not only about the physical part, that you are challenging yourself physically, you're going into the nature, you're doing a hike, you're moving your body, it's great. And I love to do a little challenge. So if people tell me I can walk 3 miles, I will set up a hike that is 3.5 miles. I will not do a hike 3.5 miles every single day, because we don't want to wear out. We want the experience to be good. People are not signing up for a retreat or a hiking trip or climbing the Olympus, you know, in Greece. We climbed the Olympus. It's a great experience. But this is really for people that are fit. And even when you're fit, it's challenging you. But the feeling to arrive to your destination is exactly where you get the reward. And the reward is one of those rewards. The physical reward is the most fast-paying reward. Like you did it, you feel good. You feel achievement. Your body is telling you, you just did something that is a little bit over your limit, because you feel the muscles, Yeah, it's exactly the most paying reward, because the rest you don't know how they will outcome back in your life at home. But the physical challenge is definitely the most rewarding one, and there is no trip that cannot go inside the nature. I think nature have even a bigger, like a little bit even bigger effect, because it's combining everything. It's bringing this, it's taking out the outside noise, the world noise, the attraction. Many of the hikes are without cell phone reception. So I'm combining again, I have people that are coming to me and say, hey, we really want to have conversation between the family. One of the things that are important is connection, or between the group and the people, or a couple that are going and, they finding themselves sitting in the evening with their cell phones, each one in their own world. It cannot happen in a hike that don't have a cell phone reception. You go inside and that's it. You're done. The only thing that your cell phone is good for is a camera, and that's exactly what it needs to be. So there is a lot of advantages that those physical challenges will cut out, and will bring even more added values into that part where you can really take a hike and you can start reflecting on the trip. You can reflect on the hike itself. You can talk about the challenges, your feelings, because by doing that, the only thing that we add to that, and I'm inviting everyone just to plan a trip. Don't book it with us, but plan it with us, in order for us to write near every single activity what you should do. How you need to process it. It's simple, but when you're planning a trip or a vacation, try to include everyone. Try to think about, what is the day topic? What do I want to challenge myself today? Is it mental? Is it psychological? Is it physical? Or is it a perspective, doing some experience that I never did? For example, pottery. People pottery is not for me. I'm not an artistic person. Again, it's a psychological with a perspective. It's so stuck. I don't know. It's maybe who is doing pottery? Who is really that you have some kind of, you built up a character around the person that doing pottery. That if somebody, I don't know, doing snowboarding is a Red Bull, and he's drinking Red Bull, he's jumping off mountains, he's sitting on top of a mountain drinking beer, doing flips, they have a healthy life. Who is the person that doing pottery? So that's the psychological barrier when I want to try some kind of a new activity, but then try it, because it's opening your perspective. And at the end, create moments to reflect. And I give you one last example about the reflection, because I really feel that the reflection is probably the most important. I had a mother that called me before, or spoke to one of my team members, and in our weekly meeting they brought it up, and they said, listen, she said that the father is very, very busy. He's working a lot. He's providing the family. We all love them. On the weekends he's spending time with the kids, but he's not very outdoorsy. And I have kids that are 7 and 9, and I want them to look up to their father. So, we're sitting in a brainstorming and said, okay, let's create an evening that will be an outdoor evening with a bonfire, because bonfire is better than TV.
By making people together.
Because, bonfire is literally bringing everyone around, and it's so interesting to see the fire burn that it's better than any TV or any social media. So, especially if you do it in a place that have no reception. So
you have no other option.
You have no other option.
The TV is not an option.
But then it's naturally happening. But the one thing that we did for that family, in order to bring the father, I wanted the father to teach his sons to light that fire and give them to light that fire. Not only teach them how you light a fire, but give them to light a fire. Now the mother was panicking. She's like, what? They will play with fire? So I did a little video explaining how to start a fire and how to teach your kid to light a fire. And I sent it to the father. Said, listen, you will have that. I want you to be responsible on the lighting the fire together with your son. And the most important, follow the steps in the video. And in order to quiet the concern of the mother, we brought these long lighters that you usually light like big stoves or grills, with the fire is this distance
Pretty long,
from,
yes, yeah.
like about, 10, 15 centimeters away from where you actually turn the fire on. And I said, like, give it to your son. Like, you need to teach him a skill to light that fire. Now, it sounds like, today in the world in 2024, every AI is doing for us everything, but AI cannot light the fire. And it's almost like inside ourselves, in our DNA, this is a survival skill.
Yeah, there is no AI in the wild, right? So we have to know that.
You basically teach your son a survival skill, and you gave him to do that, because you overcame your own fears. The parents' fears are strongly affecting the kids. So we are getting into that level. I'm literally want to find every single family, every single group, how I can empower every person. So guess what? They came back, they had such a great bonding, and they just continue to come and travel with us more and more, because every time you find this one little thing that you can create in order to get that bonding, in order to get that feeling and that connection. Because at the end, those are the memories. The luxury is there just because,
you want to travel
I don't
in a nice
want
hotel,
you to be...
Yeah.
I don't want you to be afraid. It's not like you're booking a retreat. I don't know, a Vipassana, 10-day no talking, or only yoga, or only push-ups. No, you're doing a travel. You're traveling. You already paid 90%. You paid for the airline ticket. You paid for the hotel. So I want you to feel comfortable. But the real memories are not from the room. And you can just literally ask your family, what do you remember from our last vacation? Nobody will say, oh, the pool in this hotel was so nice. Sometimes, yes, like there are some exceptional places where you stay and it's beautiful. But when you usually travel a lot, like every single year,
you remember the experiences
what
you've been
you remember
through. Yeah.
is what keeps something. It need to be together. It's a challenge. It's something that really took you out of this experience as a better version of yourself. This is exactly what we do. We create a Kintsugi art out of a single trip.
Amazing. And also we got here on this episode some advice and tips on how to plan this challenging trip. Beny, Levin, there is anything else you want to add in this episode?
I think for everyone, if you're traveling, try to look like free tips. Okay, free tips, and we're finishing with that. Whoever is going on the trip, don't make any trip to be a responsibility of one person to plan. Okay? Make sure that
I'm actually the one that plans trips in my family.
Yeah, but then, like, what is it? Like, it's all the responsibility on you.
I like it, actually.
And it's great. It's great. Usually somebody take the responsibility to collect all the information. But if you give your friend, or if you're traveling with your family, you give your mother to find one activity that will challenge you. You tell her, I want you to find an activity that will challenge us physically or mentally. Do it with your own, resources, Instagram, Google, whatever is your resources, and think about that it will fit for us as a group, as a family. So one, you bring them in, and there is no question asked, because then it's putting the other person to think exactly like you're thinking when you're planning. So they are already invested in it. Number two is create free questions every single dinner, you want to finish the day with summarizing the day. Leave every single activity. I'm not getting deep into that. It's my second tip, is like every single dinner when you're together on a trip, try to put the feelings out. Like, what did you feel when we did rappelling? What did you feel when we did this kayaking? What did you feel when we went to this market? What was the one thing that you really liked? That's the second question, that you really liked and you will be happy to repeat from this day. Okay, and why? Always add the why at the end of every single question. Like you have like a follow-up question. And the third one is, what is the one thing you don't want ever to repeat? Okay, like you didn't like it. And why? And guess what? Write it down. If you're organizing your trips, write it down, and you're basically going to have already ideas for the next trip. Because right there, this summarizing is already giving you enough information what need to be in the next trip.
Exactly. What made us interested and what we just didn't like. So yeah, it's a very good way to summarize everything and make better trips.
Listen, I really feel everyone can do it. You know, when we do it professionally, so we literally summarizing that at the end of the trip. We're writing it down. So when I do the next trip, I already know what need to be there, no matter what's the destination. If it's Portugal, if it's Spain, if it's Italy, if it's Greece, if it's Albania, if it's Croatia or Morocco or Israel, it's not really matters. Because that's the idea. You already did, you already went out of your comfort zone. Now just like use that opportunity. It's already on the table. Pick it up.
Exactly. So that's what we should do. Pick it up and challenge ourselves. And I think that's what we learned from this episode. Beny Levin, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
For me as well. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for listening to us. See you next episode.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.